Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. The Lost Temple of Hercules. In Spain, expert archaeologists believe they may have just identified the Lost Temple of Hercules, sitting at the bottom of the Bay of Cadiz, which is a part of the Atlantic Ocean. The Temple of Hercules, according to historical records from the days of Julius Caesar, Hannibal, and even Scipio Africanus, was a very real religious sanctuary in the southern tip of Spain. It was a place of pilgrimage, where peasants and Roman rulers alike would go to pay homage to their gods. But for a very long time, researchers couldn't figure out the precise location of the temple. Now they realized the big mistake they'd been making. They weren't looking beneath the ocean's surface. Finally, researchers have discovered what some have called the Holy Grail of archaeology. Using digital terrain modeling, a team of scientists detected a huge structure in one of the shallower parts of the Bay of Cadiz, only visible at low tide. From what the experts can gather, the temple itself was built by the early Phoenicians in the 8th century BC. It was decorated with bronze carvings of Hercules' famous 12 labors. It was a very impressive structure for its time, growing into a major house of worship for the Greeks and the Romans. Sadly, the Phoenicians probably didn't understand the dangers of a changing environment. They built a temple too close to the sea. Eventually, flooding caused it to submerge, and now it's sitting at the bottom of the ocean. Number 9. The deepest diving squid. 19,000 feet deep in the ocean, scientists have discovered the world's deepest living squid. The subsea explorers weren't even looking for animals, but had been on a mission to reach the shipwreck of the USS Johnston. This ship sank in battle back in 1944 during World War II. It was found to be perfectly preserved, with its guns still pointed at an invisible enemy. The trip down to the USS Johnston was a big deal for the crew, because it would be the deepest dive to a shipwreck ever completed. But a few days before they broke this record, they discovered a real-life sea monster. Alan Jameson was going through the footage of the day's dive in his office when he suddenly saw something strange moving in the murky distance. He recognized it fairly quickly as some kind of squid cruising just above the floor of the ocean. It was truly remarkable because no squid has ever been seen this deep. The squid was soon recognized and identified as a Magnapinidae, or a big fin squid. This squid has massive fins that stick out the sides of its mantle, making it truly unique among creepy ocean creatures. It has tentacles like long pieces of spaghetti that it drags through the water to catch prey. It also happens to be one of the most mysterious squids in the world. Since it lives so deep, we know very little about the creatures that live here. So what do you think of this kraken-like giant squid discovery? Let me know in the comments. Number 8. The unexplored Labrador Sea. A major hotspot of ocean biodiversity has been found in the Labrador Sea, off the coast of Makivik, Canada, and it's all thanks to a collaboration between a fish harvester and a group of scientists. The story goes back a few years ago to when Joey Agnetok had difficulty hauling up his nets from a depth of about 400 fathoms, or 2,100 feet. There seemed to be some kind of mound at the bottom of the ocean that had snagged the fishing equipment. The fisherman made a note to never return there again, but was surprised when he saw his damaged nets were filled with unusual sea life. Whatever was down there, it was like an underwater forest of coral and animals. Scientists eventually heard about the discovery and were very interested, mainly because the Labrador Sea is largely unexplored. Researchers had never been to this area before, but already knowing it had life made the trip worth it. Sadly, the attempt to rediscover the mound failed in 2020 because of the pandemic. It wasn't until just recently that scientists were able to go down to investigate the mound of life in full detail. What they found was incredible. The mysterious mound turned out to be a huge geological feature about the size of a 60-story building. It was covered in hanging gardens of bright pink corals, as well as ocean sponges growing like tropical trees. Scientists identified popcorn coral, an extremely rare species that can live for hundreds of years. They also found plenty of animals living inside the coral, sheltered much like the floor of any forest. There may not have been any monsters, but it was a pretty special discovery. It just goes to show just how little of the ocean we've discovered, and there are plenty of unique habitats out there that we still haven't found. Number 7. Alien origins. Our planet is 71% covered in water. Our water is what makes our planet appear blue. It's what allows life to thrive, and it will be around for millions of years after humans go extinct. But what's really interesting about the water in our oceans is that according to scientists, it came from space. Water in our oceans appears to have alien origins. After a Japanese robot probe brought back small grains of material from the asteroid 25143 Itokawa, scientists found evidence that water in our oceans came from other parts of our solar system. In fact, the material from the asteroid allowed scientists to confirm that there is a strong possibility over half the water on the planet was at one point filtered by interplanetary dust. They know this because the grains brought back from the asteroid were found to contain a significant amount of water, the same kind of water found here on Earth. When you're wondering to yourself what kind of amazing mysteries are hidden underneath our ocean, you can now add space dust to that list. According to scientists like Luke Daly from the University of Glasgow, the Earth likely sucked up all these dust particles as it orbited the Sun, allowing water from the tiny fragments of dust to filter from the sky down to the planet. But that's not all. Ice from both comets and asteroids would have also made a pretty big impact on Earth's water levels. When a giant block of ice hit the surface, that ice eventually melted and created an ocean. And if water came from outer space, then it could be said that all life is alien in origin. Number 6. Giant phantom jelly. A remotely operated vehicle below the surface of Monterey Bay, off the coast of California, discovered something terrifying. At a depth of 3,200 feet, the vehicle captured footage of the scariest jellyfish in the world. It's called the giant phantom jelly, and its arms are 33 feet long. They float through the ocean like limp ropes dangling off some derelict ghost ship. The bell of the jellyfish can reach 3 feet wide, making it ridiculously huge. Just imagine a red-tinted jellyfish with its body roughly the size of a human torso, and its tentacles longer than most people's houses are tall. Yet despite the giant phantom jelly being a literal giant, it's an extremely elusive creature. According to Live Science, it's only been seen somewhere around 100 times in the history of humanity. It was only first discovered in 1899 by scientists. It may be huge, but it still manages to remain hidden. The jelly's secret to remaining invisible is that it lives primarily in the darkest parts of the ocean. It lurks in what's called the midnight zone, over 21,900 feet deep in a region of the ocean where sunlight is unable to penetrate. What kind of undiscovered creatures do you think are lurking at these kinds of depths? Let me know theories you might have in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe before you go. We've got lots more videos like these coming up. Number 5. The deepest ocean hole. Off the coast of Japan, scientists have drilled the deepest ocean hole ever. The international team drilled the hole in the Pacific Ocean at a depth of 26,322 feet. That's about 5 miles below sea level and only 10,000 feet shy of the deepest point in the ocean. But what would lead people to drill a hole so deep? The answer is, of course, for science. The hole was dug near the epicenter of the brutal 2011 Tohoku earthquake, the one that caused the Fukushima nuclear disaster and that created the tsunami that ultimately led to over 18,000 deaths. Not only that, but by digging so deep in the ground, they were able to come up with really old sediment deposits. By studying these deposits, they should be able to reveal more information about much older earthquakes in the ancient past, ones that were never documented. This will not only help us see how the Earth changed long ago, but help us be better prepared for the future. Number 4. The six-gill shark. The six-gill shark is a top predator in the ocean that can reach amazing lengths of over 20 feet. It's an absolute beast of a fish that lives in the North Atlantic. However, they live pretty deep, over 700 feet beneath the surface in underwater canyons. This makes them quite rare. So rare that when marine scientists on an Ocean X expedition saw one, it was cause for celebration. From the darkness in front of the submersible, a six-gill shark emerged, 18 feet long with 2 beady black eyes. One of the reasons the shark is such a remarkable creature is that it hasn't changed much in millions of years. It once swam in the world's oceans alongside prehistoric beasts in the era of the dinosaurs. Now, there are very few of these monsters left. Scientists don't know how many since they are also hard to track, but they think their numbers are dwindling. What do you think of these ancient sharks? Creepy or fascinating? Let me know in the comments. Number 3. A sunken UFO. There may just be an alien ship hidden in the ocean. Back in 2019, a video was shared online of an unidentified flying object hovering in midair just above the surface of the ocean. The object, shaped like a sphere or a disc, moved side to side as if it was in a game of ping pong before diving abruptly into the ocean and never resurfacing. The footage was taken by the US Navy, as was confirmed by a spokesperson for the Pentagon. However, the spokesperson refused to comment on where it was filmed, only that it was definitely filmed by the Navy. This has caused a whole lot of speculation. The video clearly shows some kind of object, possibly extraterrestrial, moving in ways that human aircraft that we know of are incapable of. Plus, the fact that it dove into the water is highly suspicious. There is nothing on Earth that can fly in the air and also dive into the ocean. The footage was allegedly taken from the USS Omaha as it sailed off the coast of San Diego. Radar images showed a solid ball of about 6 feet in diameter, moving at speeds of between 46 and 158 miles per hour. Its total flight was over an hour long, up to the point where it went into the water. A submarine was apparently used to search for the unidentified object, but recovered nothing. This suggests the vehicle either resurfaced shortly after, beyond the scope of the ship's radar, or plunged to the bottom of the ocean. There very well could be an alien UFO, maybe even multiple alien UFOs, sitting docked at the bottom of the sea right now, or some kind of mysterious and unknown military technology that we just don't know about yet. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Number 2. The glass octopus. The glass octopus is one of the rarest creatures in the ocean, comparable to other glass animals like glass frogs and some types of comb jellies. It's almost completely transparent, with only its digestive tract and optic nerves appearing opaque. You can see right through the octopus. That is, if you ever have a chance to actually see one. Marine biologists spotted one recently during an expedition to the Phoenix Islands, over 3,000 miles from the coast of Australia, in the middle of absolutely nowhere. But even this most recent sighting is considered rare. The glass octopus was first discovered in the year 1918. Over 100 years later, we still know almost nothing about these miraculous cephalopods. What little scientists have been able to study of the glass octopus has come from half-digested remains found in other animals' stomachs. They typically live in the twilight zone between 656 and 3,280 feet deep, but scientists say they may also live in the midnight zone up to 9,800 feet deep. And seeing as how rare it is to spot one of these creatures, it makes you wonder what other kinds of partially invisible glass animals are still hiding in the ocean, never before seen by human eyes. Number 1. Deep sea heat. In 2021, during a deep sea expedition in the Gulf of California, scientists discovered underwater vents ejecting superheated fluid at the bottom of the ocean, over 2 miles deep. It was scientists on board the Schmidt Ocean Institute's Falkor vessel who made the discovery. They used an underwater robot to investigate the hydrothermal vents and search for new species of marine animals. These hydrothermal vents are unique, spewing hot fluid out of them like reverse waterfalls. The hot fluid creates spires of rock above the ground that look like upside-down volcanoes. But just where is all this hot water coming from? The truth is that all this boiling geological activity is because of a fracture in the Earth's crust. The hydrothermal vents are found at a boundary between two of the greatest tectonic plates on our planet, giant slabs of rock inside the crust. Seawater actually slips through the fracture in the crust, seeps down to where hot molten rock hides miles beneath the sea floor, and is then pushed back up once it becomes superheated. It's a process that creates underwater mountains, new pieces of land, and allows unique life forms to flourish around the vents. Scientists discovered an entire community of corals, worms, and crustaceans living in the superheated waters around the vents. Thanks for watching! What's your favorite deep sea discovery? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye!